Murad IV was one of the most famous and controversial sultans of the Ottoman Empire. He ascended the throne in 1623 at the age of only 11, and his reign initially began under the guardianship of others, which led to instability and internal crises. However, when Murad IV took full control of the state in 1629 at the age of 16, he became known not only for his brutal policies, but also for his determination to restore order. His reign is often regarded as a striking example of centralized power that tolerated no deviation from established norms. Murad ruled during a time of growing power struggles, economic troubles, and internal threats, and it was his harsh measures that radically changed the face of the Ottoman Empire, leaving behind a complex and contradictory legacy. Totalitarian power and strict discipline. Murad IV was obsessed with the idea of restoring discipline in his empire. He believed that his subjects should strictly follow the law and adhere to societal norms. One of his most famous policies was the introduction of a harsh anti-alcohol and anti-smoking stance. Sultan Murad IV believed that alcohol corrupted the morals of his people, encouraged debauchery, and weakened the strength of his empire. He associated drinking with laziness, dishonor, and disorder, which he saw as a threat to the moral fabric of Ottoman society. Those caught drinking on the streets or in their homes were severely punished, sometimes even executed. This strict stance on alcohol consumption made him both feared and reviled by many. The story of the punishment for drinking. One of the most well-known stories about Murad IV relates to how he discovered one of his subjects drinking on the street. The Sultan, wishing to punish the violator and make an example of him, ordered his execution. What makes this story particularly eerie is that Murad IV had been patrolling the streets of Istanbul himself, disguised and unnoticed, to catch anyone violating his laws. He personally oversaw the brutal punishment, executing the offender, and in some cases, even those who had witnessed the incident and failed to stop the violator. This became a widespread warning. Disobedience, even in the most private matters, would not go unpunished. These actions created a climate of fear and paranoia among the general population. Persecution and executions. Murad IV's reign was marked by widespread purges of his political enemies. The Sultan, who was often suspicious of the intentions of his advisors and high-ranking officials, took brutal measures against those he deemed disloyal or corrupt. Many viziers and officials who were accused of plotting against him were executed, and some were even tortured before their deaths to extract confessions. One such example was the execution of his Grand Vizier, who was allegedly involved in a conspiracy to overthrow him. Murad did not hesitate to dispose of anyone he suspected of threatening his rule, and these executions were carried out without mercy or consideration for the social status of the victim. The legend of the secret squadron. According to one popular legend, Murad IV established a secret group of personal bodyguards known as the Muradians, or secret squadron. This squadron was tasked not only with protecting the Sultan, but also with ensuring the strict enforcement of his policies. They patrolled the streets, searching for anyone who dared to defy Murad's laws, particularly those regarding alcohol, smoking, and other forbidden activities. The squadron would strike quickly without warning and punish offenders on the spot. In some versions of the story, the guards were said to be armed with clubs, making their strikes swift and lethal. This secretive group operated in the shadows, creating an atmosphere of constant fear and uncertainty within the empire. Brutality towards women. One of the more controversial aspects of Murad IV's reign was his harsh treatment of women, particularly those in his harem. He was highly concerned with the moral integrity of his court and had strict rules in place to maintain the honor of the royal family. Women in the harem were expected to behave with complete discretion and to adhere to a strict code of conduct. Any violation of this code, even something as seemingly minor as socializing with men inappropriately, could result in severe punishment. Murad IV was not afraid to personally intervene in matters of his harem, as seen in the case of his own sister, who was severely punished for spending time in the company of men. The Sultan's actions in the harem reflected his deeply authoritarian approach to governance, where no one, not even the women closest to him, was above the law. The paradox of Murad IV's reign. Murad IV's reign remains one of the most paradoxical periods in Ottoman history. On one hand, he was a ruthless and merciless ruler, known for his brutal enforcement of laws and his extreme measures to maintain control. His reign was characterized by widespread fear, repression, and the use of terror as a tool of governance. On the other hand, Murad IV was a ruler who deeply cared about the strength and stability of the Ottoman Empire. His attempts to impose discipline, curb corruption, and restore order were motivated by his belief that the empire was in decline and needed a strong hand to guide it. His methods, though harsh, were a response to the political instability and social unrest of the time. Conclusion. Murad IV was a complex and contradictory figure. He was a ruler who demanded absolute obedience and was willing to use extreme measures to enforce his will. His reign saw the brutal suppression of political dissent, the implementation of harsh social policies, and the use of terror to maintain control. Yet, despite his cruelty, Murad IV's reign also saw a flourishing of culture, music, and art, though these were tightly controlled to serve his political agenda. The legacy of Murad IV is one of both fear and respect, fear for his uncompromising policies and the extreme punishments he meted out, and respect for his determination to restore order to an empire in crisis. His reign stands as a testament to the complexities of leadership, where even the most brutal of rulers can leave a lasting mark on history.